Hello, my name is Greg Burnham, and I'd like to welcome you to my website, AssassinationOfJFK.net. The fact that you've arrived here probably means that you have more than just a passing interest in a subject that was literally the main event that shaped our world, both during and since the very height of the Cold War, the assassination of the 35th President of the United States, John Fitzgerald Kennedy. Many people, from those in the government to those in the media, teachers in the classroom, historians, independent researchers, and members of the general public, have described the assassination of JFK in many different ways. These descriptions vary widely in both content and in scope. But generally there are two camps, those who believe a lone nut did it, and those who believe JFK was a victim of a conspiracy. On one end of the spectrum, the federal government's description of the assassination of JFK proceeds in a manner characterizing it as a simple homicide, if you will, involving only the work of an alleged lone gunman as stated by the first official U.S. government accounting of the event in the Warren Commission report. And at the other end of the spectrum, there are those who believe that the assassination of JFK is best described as the crime of the century. And somewhere in between those two extremes, the findings of the House Select Committee on Assassination resides, which concluded the assassination of JFK was the result of a probable conspiracy. Yet even that more fully informed and more evidence-rich investigation conducted by the House Select Committee failed to unseat from its prominence in the news, from the history books, and even the classroom, the dogmatic conclusion erroneously reached by the Warren Commission, namely, that one lone nut, Lee Harvey Oswald, assassinated John Fitzgerald Kennedy, and then 2 days later, a second lone nut, Jack Ruby, assassinated the first lone nut before he could stand trial. Quite convenient and quite ludicrous even on its face. As for me, even as tragic as the conspiracy to assassinate John F. Kennedy was by itself, it is not in and of itself the crime of the century. Rather, the crime of the century was then and is now the well-orchestrated, high-level conspiracy to cover up the truth, and more significantly, the act of subsequently covering up the cover-up, independent of the original crime. A standalone homicide by itself may be considered a simple crime under certain circumstances, but this is not one of them. The murder itself is an event that has passed into history. It is done, no matter how it came to be. The president is dead. However, the conspiracy to cover up the crime, or more properly stated, the conspiracy to obstruct justice in the assassination of JFK, is not static. The conspiracy to cover it up is dynamic, and it is ongoing. Why else would hundreds of documents remain concealed from the public after more than 50 years? That the cover-up of the assassination is dynamic means something, and it should raise red flags in each of us. At the very least, it indicates something that we all know to be true, that concealing the truth over time is a full-time job. Researchers, authors, members of the news media, and even a few political figures have made various statements indicating their lack of confidence in the official story, suggesting that a conspiracy better accounts for the available evidence than does the official reports. Just recently, former Senator and now Secretary of State John Kerry expressed his doubts as to the accuracy of the conclusions reached by the Warren Commission during the celebration of the 50th anniversary of JFK's murder. Were Secretary Kerry's comments too little too late? I think so, but it is a beginning. But imagine what might have been if the then current Secretary of State, Dean Rusk, had expressed similar sentiments in the weeks or months following the release of the Warren Commission report. Or what if the LBJ Oval Office tape recording of November 29, 1963 that we now have, which took place 1 week following the assassination, what if it had been leaked? I mean, if you remember, this is the conversation in which the director of the FBI, J. Edgar Hoover, tells LBJ that Kennedy would have no doubt been hit by all the shots if Governor Connolly had not been in the way, indicating Hoover's knowledge that at least one shot originated from the front. And how do we know this? Well, if you recall, the governor was seated immediately in front of JFK. How could the governor have taken a bullet intended for Kennedy if the assassin who fired it was allegedly located to Kennedy's rear. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. The vast majority of those polled around the world, including citizens of the United States, did not believe the findings of the Warren Commission immediately after the Warren Commission report was released. And over the next few years, the incredulity among the populace grew to a level sufficient to cause a growing concern among various government agencies. To wit, the CIA cabled a dispatch to certain station chiefs, instructing them on how to discredit critics of the Warren report. Now, I've included those documents on this site for your perusal, along with many, many more. Finally, I hope that the information, including formally classified and documents that are recently declassified, which we'll be adding all the time, by the way, I hope that you find them assistive to you in your journey toward the truth. I am under no illusions. We may well never know the truth to who done it, especially if the it is merely defined as who pulled triggers. It is my hope, however, that we will gain a perspective from knowing who did not do it and what did not happen, and by accepting the fact that those in a position to know better have perpetuated the injustice spawned by that big lie to this very day. Once we have that sad reality firmly within our grasp, can we begin to wrap our head around it sufficiently enough to ask the most important question of all: why? Again, I want to thank you for visiting AssassinationOfJFK.net. My name is Greg Burnham. Come back often. You'll find documents here that you may find no place else. Have a good day.